In this video we will find out how Karl's moon landing should have killed him. And it's not for the reasons that you think. It's going to be crazy. This is Karl. He went to space because Mr. Beast launched some new candy that looks almost as tasty as you. But when watching him land on the moon, I thought to myself, wow. Karl could not possibly have survived this. We will check out if there was even a chance that Karl survived his rough moon landing. Check out the clip and comment what you think is the most likely to kill Karl.
Steady. Ah, woo, nailed it.
I can't believe you made it.
I don't know why you ever doubted me, Jimmy. Ooh.
I mean, because not every day do people go to the moon.
Oh no.
Oh, what's that noise?
Oh
Karl? Karl!
Ooh. Oh. Oof. What in the world? What is this? Wait, that's really good.
Introducing Karl Gummies, now available at feastables.com and coming to Walmart in late April.
So after the landing, Karl has a hankering for an apple, which escapes his grasp and hits the ejection seat button that Mr. Beast placed very poorly in that rocket. Karl is being flung out of his capsule at 12 to 20 Gs.
Oh
That's approximately 118 to 169 meters per second squared. That's 20 times faster than a fighter jet. And every ejection has a 1 in 3 chance to severely injure the user's spine and a 10% fatality. So Karl is very lucky that he belongs to the percentile that can still frolic around on the moon after the ejection seat has been deployed. While this was a lucky coincidence for Karl, there seems to have been a malfunction of the ejection seat, since there was no braking rockets on that ejector seat to brake Karl's fall. You might be expecting a parachute, since that is what we use on Earth and also on Mars. But since the atmosphere on the moon is lower by a factor of 100 billion, meaning they are closer to a vacuum compared to Earth, a parachute would not have worked. Therefore, rockets would have been required, like the ones on the capsule, which means that Karl plummeted to the moon at full speed.
But that's no problem,
I hear you say.
since you are weightless in space, right?
Wrong. While in space, you really are weightless, that does not hold true for objects with high mass in space. Like your mom! Since any two objects with mass attract each other. This is what we call gravity. And with the moon being as small as it is, it does have a gravitational force that is 6 times lower than the Earth, but it still has gravity. This is why you can see Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin hop around on the moon instead of them just drifting away. If you weigh 75 kilograms on Earth, on the moon it would feel like 12.5 kilograms.
Hey, losing weight, huh?
So still enough to fall down pretty quickly. That means that you will be hurt when falling down, just slightly less.
Oh wow, thank you so much!
The camera movement makes it very tough to see how high Karl was being propelled. Let's assume the commonly used acceleration for ejector seats at about 16 Gs. And by using math, we can safely say that his peak is approximately 48 meters. Even with the reduced gravitational force on the moon, this still leads to a velocity of 12.5 meters per second at the impact, which is like jumping from a 3-story house on Earth.
Son of a bitch.
Not deadly yet, but not pleasant. But we haven't taken into account the blast of the apple explosion that sends Karl flying back down. If we assume that it propels him with a measly 50 km per hour initial blast, the impact velocity on the ground would be about the same as jumping from the 9th floor of a building on Earth.
Bingo! Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Much more deadly. As a matter of fact, a fall from that height on hard ground is not survivable. But apparently it is not deadly enough for Mr. Beast's friend Karl. But was there something he did that could be even more deadly? Now here's the final issue. And no, it is not him eating an apple that has been merged with an undefined space object. That falls under suspension of disbelief, since we don't know what that thing was and what it was made out of. Maybe a meteoroid, maybe something alien. Well, Karl has survived the ejector seat, the blast from the apple explosion, and plummeting onto the moon's surface. Instead of counting his lucky stars, Karl pushes his luck, which is honestly understandable. A flight to the moon takes approximately 3 days. After that time, and the back pain from the fall, Karl is naturally desperate for a snack. So he picks up the remains of the apple.
What is this?
But how should he manage to eat the yummy treat? Instead of taking it back and eating it inside the capsule, he lifts his visor to eat it. Now at this point, you shouted at your screen, "Gotcha, Karl! This is unrealistic! You dead man walking!" And so did I. How could Karl possibly survive this? Would his eyes pop out? Would his body explode? I mean, we have seen it plenty of times in science fiction. Isn't that what would happen if you opened your visor in space? Well, not quite. If you open a pressurized spacesuit to the surrounding vacuum, the air from your suit and lungs would immediately get sucked out. If you hold your breath during this step, your lungs would collapse. But now look at what Karl did. While he tried to do the intuitional thing and hold his breath, he actually left his mouth open and even fully opens it after a split second. This is why the air could escape his body without doing any harm. Apart from that, there is no violent explosion. This has happened before on a vacuum chamber test on Earth, which is why we know that. His desire for the Mr. Beast candy may have saved Karl here.
Wait, that's really good.
But what else happens in the vacuum? Well, the boiling point for liquids drops a lot, so the liquid inside Karl's body would start to boil. Does that mean that his blood starts boiling? Unfortunately not. I mean, it's fortunate for Karl, but the image is still enticing.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But blood would not be affected in the beginning, as our body is able to somewhat maintain the pressure in our veins for a few seconds. But the saliva in the mouth would start to boil. Keep in mind though that this would not hurt Karl. He would only feel a tingly sensation on his tongue as the boiling temperature is reduced, but the temperature of the water itself is not being increased. So it would boil cold. What? One noticeable difference would be, however, that Karl's muscle fiber would double in size. Contrary to science fiction, where people blowed up like balloons, Karl would be ripped as heck after this and would need mechanical compression to be shrunk down to his regular size. I know, you are hoping that this would finally blast him into pieces, since the skin would rip like a bloated balloon. But no, the human skin can be stretched extremely far, so it would be able to contain the increased size. I know, you bloodthirsty freaks are disappointed. But so far, Karl is still pretty safe. But what about hypothermia? Space is very cold. No, that would also not work, since the drop-off from Karl's body temperature would not be instantaneous, but progressive through thermal radiation of the exposed areas.
I don't get it. What does that mean?
Since Karl has kept opening the visor under 2 seconds, there has not been any damage to him. He would probably look a little worse than he does in the video, but hey, an apple candy a day keeps the doctor away, I guess. Maybe the Karl Gummies have helped in his swift recovery. So aside from the bone-crushing fall that Karl experiences, there seems to be no issue with him surviving this adventure. apart from maybe getting cancerous growths thanks to the exposure to so much radiation while his visor was open. But until that happens, Karl can enjoy all the Karl Gummies he can get his hands on. But what was that thing that hit the apple in the first place? It couldn't have been anything alien, right? Since there are no aliens. Or are there? You can check out this video to find the answer to that question next. Bye!